So it was reported from Front Office Sports. They said the WNBA has broken its all-time regular season attendance record with a month still left in the season. Over 2.3 million fans have attended WNBA games this season. And then you see there is a photo of Paige Bueckers.
The WNBA just hit a major milestone. They broke their all-time attendance record with over 2.3 million fans this season. You'd expect everyone to be celebrating, but instead, we got a controversy that shows just how divided this league really is. It started with a social media post announcing the attendance record. The problem, they used a photo of Paige Bueckers from the Dallas Wings to represent this achievement. That's when NBA player Draymond Green stepped in and asked a simple question: why use a player from a team that doesn't even rank in the top 3 for attendance? Green had a point. The Dallas Wings play in a 7,000-seat arena and rank 5th in total attendance with 329,000 fans. Meanwhile, the Indiana Fever lead with 577,979 attendees. And the Golden State Valkyries have sold out every home game as a new expansion team. These are the teams actually driving the numbers, but they weren't chosen to represent the success. This photo choice isn't just a marketing mistake. It reveals something bigger about how the WNBA operates. The league seems to be pushing certain narratives that don't match the reality of what's happening on the ground. As one fan put it, they're trying to create a story that doesn't exist while ignoring the actual story right in front of them. But this image controversy is just the surface. Like, what's happening behind closed doors with contract negotiations could actually shut down the entire 2026 season. And the people making those decisions might not have the league's best interests at heart.
Now, with WNBA news and how it's reported, fans will always have something to say. And with this post in particular, some fans were wondering why they used Paige Bueckers as the photo to announce this record that has been broken. And one of those fans was actually NBA player Draymond Green.
Here's where things get really concerning. The WNBA owners just offered players a 4-time salary increase. That's not a small bump. We're talking about potentially raising salaries from around $60,000 to $240,000 for many players. In most industries, that would be an offer you'd take immediately. Instead, the players' union turned it down. Now we're facing a potential lockout with the October 31st deadline approaching fast. But here's the part that should worry every basketball fan. The two people leading these negotiations for the players are Nafisa Collier and Breanna Stewart. They're both starred WNBA players, but they're also the co-founders and owners of Unrivaled, a competing 3-on-3 basketball league. Satu Sabali recently revealed something that shows just how complicated this has become. She said she made more money playing in Unrivaled than in her entire WNBA career combined. Now think about that. The people negotiating for all WNBA players own a league that's currently paying better than the WNBA. Fans are calling this out as a clear conflict of interest. As one person noted, it's like having McDonald's executives negotiate Burger King employee contracts. The loyalties just don't line up. The numbers make this even more problematic. Unrivaled only has 36 players on their roster, while the WNBA employs over 150 players. So when Collier and Stewart are negotiating, are they thinking about the rookie making $60,000 who desperately needs that salary increase? Or are they protecting their own business interests?
So he posted this on his Threads account. He said, "So I just came across this post on ESPNW Instagram, and I found the picture interesting. Is there a shift happening?" And someone said, "Yes, people are following the league day to day now, and it's turning into attendance gains. I'd also be curious how the Valkyries' attendance data is impacting this number." And then Draymond said this. He said, "I'm speaking more about Paige. They spoke of all-time attendance and showed Paige, who plays for Dallas, but doesn't have top 3 in attendance. Is Paige quickly becoming the face of the W?" And then somebody else replied, and they said they likely used her image because she's coming off of a big game.
To understand why this matters so much, we need to look at how professional sports usually handle these situations. Take Diana Taurasi. She once left the WNBA entirely for a season to play in Russia for over $1 million. But that was a clear choice. Leave the WNBA or stay. The teams knew where they stood. What we're seeing now is different. And players want to have it both ways. Yeah, I collect WNBA salaries while also playing in competing leagues during the offseason. But that's not how business works when you're talking about big money contracts. In the NBA, players sign exclusive deals worth millions because teams need to protect their investments. If you're paying someone $10 million, you don't want them risking injury in another league during the summer. The WNBA is moving toward that same model, but players are resisting it. Meanwhile, some players are complaining about the current schedule. Sabally called playing 5 games in 8 days overdoing it, but NBA players regularly play back-to-back games, and their season is twice as long. Patrick Beverley pointed this out, saying players need to be realistic about what professional basketball requires. The frustrating part is that the players who are complaining about scheduling are often the same ones who have alternative income from other leagues. The players who rely solely on WNBA salaries, they're not the ones making these public complaints. And here's something that most fans don't realize. These negotiations are usually kept private for good reason. When you air out contract disputes publicly, it makes everyone look bad. Players seem ungrateful, owners look cheap, and fans start questioning whether they want to support the league at all. Most professional sports leagues learned this lesson years ago. You negotiate behind closed doors, reach a deal, then announce it. What the WNBA is doing, having players complain publicly about schedules, salaries, and working conditions, is actually hurting their own cause.
Although that doesn't mean she won't be the face of the W at some point. That title, I feel, is still up for grabs and has felt like it's flip-flopped a few times even this season. And then Draymond Green said if Lexi Hull had 44, they would have used her picture. She's very good, by the way. I just thought that this was funny because this was clearly Draymond's way of saying, why would you use Paige for this specific news when clearly the Dallas Wings are not ramping up attendance ratings?
Let's be honest about what's really driving this attendance boom. It's not evenly spread across the league. 2 teams are carrying most of the weight, the Indiana Fever and the Golden State Valkyries. The Fever's impact goes beyond just their home games. Teams are moving games to larger NBA arenas when Indiana visits, even when Caitlin Clark isn't playing. The Valkyries have done something remarkable as an expansion team. They've built a local fan base that sells out every game. Compare that to other markets. The Minnesota Lynx are having their best season in years, but still can't fill their 18,000 seat arena. The Atlanta Dream averages about 3,360 fans in a venue that holds 3,500. They can't even sell out their small arena consistently. This uneven growth matters because it shows how fragile the current boom might be. Fans have pointed out that viewership drops significantly when certain teams aren't playing. The league's success is concentrated around specific players and markets, not spread throughout the entire WNBA. Now, let's talk about the money side, because this is where things get interesting. The WNBA still loses money every year. We're talking about roughly $40 million in losses that get covered by the NBA. So when players are demanding a bigger piece of the revenue pie, they're asking for a share of money that doesn't really exist yet. This isn't unusual for a growing league. The NBA lost money for years before becoming profitable, but it took decades for NBA players to reach the salary levels they have now.
Now, if you look at this chart right here, the highest attendance of any team in the 2025 season is the Indiana Fever, totaling 577,979 fans. And then a close second is the Golden State Valkyries. Now, something to consider when we're looking at attendance is that the Indiana Fever, for a lot of their away games, the other teams have changed arenas to accommodate the amount of fans that the Indiana Fever brings in, no matter where they are at.
The WNBA players seem to want that same end result without going through the same building process. The owners aren't just being cheap, like they're making a business calculation. If you're losing $40 million a year, offering to quadruple player salaries is actually a pretty big risk. You're betting that the current growth will continue and eventually turn into real profit. Meanwhile, Unrivaled is operating on investor money while playing in front of small crowds. The high salaries they're paying aren't sustainable based on current revenue. They're burning through investment capital. As one fan observed, what happens when those investors want their money back? Here's what makes this situation even more complicated: the international market. For years, WNBA players have gone overseas in the offseason to make real money. European and Asian leagues can pay more because they're often subsidized by governments or corporations that see sports as marketing rather than profit centers. But that created a problem. WNBA players were treating their home league like a part-time job while making their real money elsewhere. The league wants to change that dynamic, but it requires paying salaries that can compete with international offers. The path forward isn't complicated. Accept the salary increase now, continue building the league's fan base, and negotiate from an even stronger position in 3 years. But that requires people at the negotiating table who are fully committed to the WNBA's success. Right now, that's not guaranteed.
Now, the Golden State Valkyries are a team who have routinely sold out their home arenas, but they are not forcing other teams to move arenas when they go on the road. So when you look at Indiana, a lot of the times the arenas that they're playing in are arenas that are at minimum 10,000 up to 20,000 people who fit in these arenas.
We're at a turning point for women's professional basketball. The WNBA finally has momentum, mainstream attention, and real growth. But the people leading contract negotiations have divided loyalties, and that could derail everything. If these negotiations fail and we lose the 2026 season, all this progress could disappear, new fans might move on to other sports, mainstream media attention could fade. The players who most need better WNBA salaries, the ones without alternative leagues to fall back on, would suffer the most. Think about what a lockout would mean for the broader landscape. Other women's sports are competing for attention and investment. If the WNBA shows it can't get its business together during its best growth period, why would sponsors and media partners stick around? The league has worked for decades to get to this point. They finally have teams selling out NBA arenas, games getting over 1 million viewers, and mainstream athletes like Draymond Green paying attention. Throwing that away over negotiations led by people with competing business interests would be a historic mistake. The solution is straightforward: remove the conflict of interest from negotiations. Have people who are fully invested in the WNBA's success represent all the players, not just the ones with backup plans. Fans are watching this closely, and they're not happy with what they're seeing. As one person put it, "We finally have a league worth following, and the people running it seem determined to mess it up." The attendance numbers prove there's a real audience for women's basketball when it's done right. The Golden State Valkyries showed that expansion can work with proper marketing and community engagement. The Indiana Fever proved that star power can drive interest even when key players are injured. But none of that matters if the league can't get its own house in order. The business fundamentals are finally starting to work. Attendance is up, viewership is growing, and there's genuine mainstream interest. The last thing you want to do is interrupt that momentum with a work stoppage. The next few weeks will determine whether the WNBA capitalizes on its biggest opportunity in decades or becomes a cautionary tale about squandering success. The fans have shown up, the numbers are there. The only question is whether the people making decisions will choose the league's future over their own business interests. What do you think will happen? Are you concerned about where these negotiations are heading? Let me know your thoughts below. This conversation matters because the league office needs to hear from the fans who are actually showing up. And if you want to stay updated on how this situation develops, make sure you're subscribed. Whether the WNBA survives this challenge or not, we'll be here covering every development as it happens. The ball is in the league's court. Let's see what they do.